First of all, how do you like Roxbury?
I like it. You know, this is my part of the woods. As I said on stage, my grandparents are from Dunmore, and I've spent an awful lot of time here all through my youth.
One-nighter is very hard to do for a performer. Now, you're going to Philadelphia tomorrow night. Does that take a toll?
Very tough. But they really pay well, so it makes it worthwhile doing one-nighters.
Now, you have the hit My Eyes Adored You. I thought that Hickory, which you released in the summer of '74, would bring you back. That didn't go anywhere. Why do you think My Eyes Adored You became such a hit?
I think because we bought it back from Motown and gave it to another record company. I think if we did the same thing with Hickory, it would have been a hit.
What do you mean bought it back?
What happened with My Eyes Adored You is we were with Motown for 2.5 years, and we recorded My Eyes Adored You, and it was in the can for a year. They didn't think it was anything. And when we left, we bought it back and sold it to another record company, and they released it, and it was a hit. I just think that a hit song is a hit song, you know, and either you hear it or you don't, and they just didn't hear it. But that whole period of time we were with Motown, there were a lot of very good things that we recorded that were at least chart records that just never even got out.
Why would that be? Because of their management, or because they don't?
I think it's basically because the record company is not really geared to be a pop label, and it's one of those kind of things, and it would take a lot of revamping. And they started out basically being an R&B record company, and they never really got over the hump. They wanted to make the changes. I think if everything worked out the way we originally had planned it with Barry Gordy, they could have done that. But he got involved in a motion picture, and he didn't have the time, and that's what happened.
Well, Smokey was in that too, wasn't he? Smokey Robinson?
Yeah, but Smokey has been sort of a vice president who really is a performer and really doesn't get involved in the business part of it.
Imitation Life Gazette in 1968. That was really a departure for you. Did you enjoy doing that album?
Yes, I did. I mean, although it wasn't the success that we thought it would be, it very quietly did about 200,000 albums. It was sort of a departure, and it was our way of talking about some of the problems that existed.
When you broke onto the music scene, you had Tommy DeVito with the guitar, you with the falsetto voice, Gaudio's lyrics, Nick Massey's low voice, for Sherry and Walk Like a Man. And do you think, well, the Beatles came, and they practically wiped out every American group, but they didn't you. You guys stayed right up on top with them. What's the reason for that?
Oh, I don't think that they wiped out every American group. I mean, I appreciate the fact that you say that they didn't wipe us out, but there were a lot of great acts that were happening through the period of the Beatles. I mean, let's not forget the Four Tops, or the Supremes, or the Beach Boys, or the Temps.
But you stayed consistent, though, right along with the Beatles. I mean, there wasn't any, pattern or anything.
I don't know. I don't know what the reason for that was, except that we did the kind of music we'd like to do, and that's all we were worried about. We didn't try to be what the Beatles were. And I think most of the people who stayed with what they were and believed in what they were, they sustained.
Do you find this industry suffering with the recessionary period the same as all others? Have you noticed any reduction in audience or anything of that?
I have found that, and if you studied this very carefully through the years, you would find that entertainment thrives on tough times. For some strange reason, people have to get away from the problems, the everyday problems they're faced with, and they might spend that last $4 or $5 or $6 or $7 that they have in their pocket just to be entertained, to forget what's going on. I think it's very, very necessary.
Don't you find that over the years concert groups have gone up so high in price that they have sort of driven away some business?
Well, I agree with you, and I would like to say that, speaking for myself, I can't speak for any of the other groups. We have always stayed in a price range that was relatively reasonable and nothing that was that was frightening. And there have been people. I know Tom Jones was going through a period where he was getting $75,000 or $100,000 a night, and he would be able to play nothing but stadiums and places like that. Now, I wondered to myself, is it more important to make the $75,000 a night and play in a stadium where you could get no quality at all, or is it more important to do two shows in a 5 or even a 15,000 seat arena as opposed to a 60,000 or 70,000? It's like when the Beatles played Shea. What kind of quality could you get? I mean, it's outdoors. It's very difficult. You got to be talking about sound equipment that I can't even imagine. It would take many truckloads of equipment to do the right sound in Shea, and still being outside, acoustically, it's wrong.
You recorded for Smash, VJ, Phillips Crew. How many records have you sold? Is that an unfair question, right off the top of your head?
Well, through the period with VJ, there was no real accurate count, but it's been estimated, as far as taxes are concerned, and I'm going strictly by that and accounting, my own accounting, somewhere in the vicinity of about 80 million records all told.
How do you feel you've been treated from radio over the years and perhaps television?
Well, for a little while, when the super heavy music was happening, I felt that radio had sort of forgotten that we had made a contribution, and we were not going to change. We were not going to become Grand Funk or Jimi Hendrix. We were what we were. And I think there are enough people in the country at that particular time, to warrant the kind of music we were doing. So I think that sometimes, there are a lot of problems with radio that are not really radio's fault. I think the government has created some, with all the investigations on payola and so forth and so on. They have created a situation where radio is not playing more than 15 or 20 records. They used to play 40 or 50. Or a disc jockey had the liberty to pick a particular new record that came out and say, hey, I think this is a smash. In a way, I think it's taken the creativity away from the jockey. A lot of disc jockeys have gotten out of radio because of that, or gone to smaller stations where they could do that.
That instrumental, that Not the Love theme, the other one that the group did, what was the title of that?
It's a song that was written during the First World War. It's called the Warsaw Concerto.
I've heard that they're going to be releasing an album with Mike Kerr Productions or something about that in California.
The Four Seasons will be releasing some singles and an album.
On his label?
Yes, on his label. It's a brand new label.
Which one?
I'm not at liberty to say the name of the company, but it will be an affiliation of Warner Brothers.
It won't be private stock?
No. Okay. We have a very unique situation. I'm signed to private stock as a solo singer, and they have allowed me to sign with another company with a group. That was a part of my deal right from the beginning.
How many changes have been in your group over the years? Has there been a great number or just?
There have been about 8 or 9 changes easily.
within Lead itself, the Four Seasons itself, or
Within the framework of the Four Seasons. Actually, Joe is with me the longest. He's with me 10 years now.
been together 13.
Yeah. Joe was the first change, and Bob Gaudio is still a very intricate part of the Four Seasons, but not a part of the road operation. He's just producing and writing for the Four Seasons and Frankie, Valli, and various artists.
Was the album with Stay on it? Your first, was that one? That was one of your first. Was it the
I think it was the first album.
That was one of your.
How about the one with Soon on it?
Yes.
Wasn't that the first?
Soon was out of the first album, too, I think.
What was your first song? Was Sherry your first one? Or?
Sherry was the first.
Yeah, I remember that one that came out. That's all that.
The recent article in People magazine, do you think it was really attributed to your hit, My Eyes Adored You, or to the nostalgia way of going?
Oh, I think it was attributed to the hit, and I think that the article was going to come about anyway because lots of people have been following the act and had just begun to realize that we'd been able to sustain. I mean, we were not in trouble because we didn't have a hit. There was plenty of work. We've been grossing between $850 to $1 million a year. I mean, that's pretty good for a group that's not having hits.
Do you find that the music industry today is degenerating as some people feel it is as far as the type of performance that people are putting on? For example, the relationship with drugs and even homosexual activity for that matter.
I find that that's disappearing. I mean, as far as homosexuality is concerned, it's always existed, and I'm glad that it's finally come out of the closet. It shouldn't matter what a guy does in his private life. And, as long as he doesn't do it to you, I mean, that's what's really important.
But I mean, as far as the performance goes, in other words, sort of the advocacy.
Well, let's put it this way. Everybody has to have someone to relate to. And, for years there were performers who were homosexuals, and it had to be a secret. And it was all underground. Now a performer doesn't have to worry about that. I mean, whatever he wants to be, he can be, and he will have his own audience. So I think in a way it's healthy.
I have a question. How come you don't do... Is there any specific reason why you don't do the Will You Love Me Tomorrow Ragdoll ending anymore, which is my favorite,
Will You Love Me and Ragdoll, and because of time, and time being an important element when you're doing a show, people are sitting there for that long, and then there's an opening act. We took it out tonight and put Swear to God in for the first time, but usually in that spot we do Will You Love Me and Ragdoll in a medley. It would be virtually impossible to do every single hit we've ever had. It would probably take about 3.5 hours. And
I agree.
I don't have the energy to tell you the truth.
The high notes, so I noticed.
Were you pleased with the crowd tonight?
Yes, I was. I thought they were a delightful audience.
I think they were pleased with you.
I think they're well behaved, one of the best.
Well, I find that it's very important that a performer create a rapport with his audience. It's been called rapport, it's been called charisma, but it should happen. The audience would like to feel as though they can become a part of the show. They used to call it a happening, and it's something that they take with them when they leave the concert. So I think that's very important, because what is music really? It's a means of communication.
Can you give me the latest rundown on the release date and what's going to be on the Vintage Valli album?
The release date on that should be, I guess a couple weeks.
What material will be...
It'll be all the hits that I've had, all the solo hits.
Something like that Golden album that was...
Right. It'll be Can't Take My Eyes Off You, I Make a Fool of Myself, The Girl I'll Never Know to Give.
Just your song?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
First of all, how do you like